Greetings, everyone, and welcome to SpaceWeek Live for Sunday, August 22nd, 2021. I am back. Well, first of all, welcome, and if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the chat, as is being instructed right now by our intrepid moderator, Chris V. Just make sure to tag my name, Raw Space, so that we are sure to see the questions, and they will be compiled, and I'll be able to answer them at the end of the show. So I am back from the beach. That footage you just saw in the intro was some GoPro footage I shot from right in front of our condo. So we spent a little over 4 days on Amelia Island in northern Florida. It was an eventful trip. We relaxed, we played, I recorded some footage for the channel. We got rained on, my brand new canopy tent was destroyed, my daughter lost her glasses in the ocean, and I got a crack in my Tesla's windshield. Good stuff. But we did have a lot of good times, and now it's back to work for me, and my kids start school this week. My eldest will be a freshman in high school this year. Pretty crazy. Looking back at the previous week, last Monday, Arianespace launched a Vega rocket from the ESA's spaceport in French Guiana with the Pleiades Neo 4 Earth observation satellite for Airbus, plus 4 rideshare smallsats. First was BRO 4, or Brage Reconnaissance Orbiter 4, a spectrum monitoring and electromagnetic intelligence service for maritime and aerial traffic surveillance developed by Unseen Labs. Next was RadCube for real-time monitoring of the cosmic radiation of space weather and space weather environment, and visualization of the measurement data developed by the MTA Center for Energy Research and C3S Electronics Development. Then is Sunstorm, a solar X-ray flux monitor developed by a Finnish team from Finland, led by IsoWare. It's a miniaturized X-ray spectrometer that can detect solar flares with a level of precision previously unseen. And finally, LEDsat from the S5 Lab research group at Sapienza University of Rome. With LED emitters and retroreflectors, ground-based telescopes, and laser ranging observatories, we'll be able to optically track it. Let's go ahead and check out that launch.
Final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, Visibilité. Top. Image P80 et décollage UV19.
As always, Vega leaps off the launch pad, being a small, solid propelled rocket. High thrust to weight ratio. Let's see. Then on Saturday, after a scrub and delay from a couple or earlier in the week, a Russian Soyuz 2.1B launched 34 more OneWeb satellites into orbit from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Let's check out the launch, and then the tracking cam was able to stay locked onto the rocket for an impressive 5 minutes and 40 seconds after liftoff. I won't subject you to all that, but I may speed it up when it gets there. I must say, Soyuz probably has my favorite thrust pattern of any rocket. It just, it's beautiful, a beautiful thing to see take off. Now let's speed this up a bit. And there it goes, receding off into the distance. All right. Then, oh yes, this morning at 8:02 a.m. Eastern, 12:02 GMT, was the full moon. Condolences to those of you afflicted with lycanthropy. But the moon is still pretty full if you want to go out and take a look, though the fullest of fullness has passed. All right, so that was actually it for last week. Looking ahead to this week, on Tuesday, August 24th at 7 a.m. Eastern, 11 GMT, is U.S. spacewalk number 77 on the ISS. Astronauts Aki Hoshide and Mark Van de Hei will install a bracket for the third IROSA solar array on the P4 truss. You may recall from back in June, the first two IROSA arrays were installed on the 2B and 4B channels on the P6 truss at the far left side of the station. There are a total of 6 planned IROSA arrays, which will augment all but 2 of the 8 legacy ISS solar arrays. The spacewalk will last about 7 hours. And of course, look for coverage here on Raw Space. A few minutes later, on Tuesday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern, 11:30 GMT, a Chinese Long March 2C will launch the Internet Connectivity Test Satellite. Also on Tuesday at 11:45 a.m. Eastern, 15:45 GMT, a Long March 3 will launch TJSW-7. Neither of the Chinese launches will have coverage, per usual. Then on Wednesday, August 25th, at 9:35 a.m. Eastern, 13:35 GMT, a Blue Origin New Shepard suborbital rocket will launch NS-17 to an altitude of about 104 kilometers, then come straight back down and land. Mounted to the exterior of the booster will be a NASA Lunar Landing Tech demo, which previously flew on an earlier New Shepard flight. On the outside, on the let's see, on the outside of the unmanned crew capsule, painted on top of the parachute covers, will be an art installation by Ghanaian artist Amoako Boafo called Suborbital Triptych, consisting of portraits of the artist, his mother, and his friend's mother. It's part of Uplift Aerospace's Uplift Art program to inspire new ideas and generate dialogue. Pretty cool. Inside the capsule will be 18 commercial payloads, including the modal propellant gauging experiment from Carthage College, demonstrating a novel approach to measuring propellant levels in spacecraft propellant tanks in a microgravity environment, the Orbital Syngus Commodity Augmentation Reactor, aka OSCAR, from NASA Kennedy Space Center, which aims to reuse and repurpose common spaceflight waste products by using heat and an oxygen supply stage to transform the trash into useful resources, such as water and propellant. This will be Oscar's second flight on New Shepard. And the Liquid Acquisition Device, or LAD-3, from the Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio, Texas. Their third flight on New Shepard in a series of demonstrations of how liquid-vapor interfaces behave and how bubbles move in microgravity. And finally, the Biological Imaging in Support of Suborbital Science from the University of Florida, their third experiment in which the Flex Fluorescence Imaging System will enable increasingly precise and dynamic biological research on suborbital missions. All cool stuff. Science made possible at a much cheaper cost than orbital launches by Blue Origin's New Shepard. Live coverage, of course, here on Raw Space, as always. Then on Friday, August 27th at 4 a.m. Eastern, 0800 GMT, Astrospace will launch their Rocket 3.3 with STP-27AD-1, a test payload for the U.S. Space Force. I'm not sure if there will be a live stream. They did not broadcast their last launch, so it is reasonable to expect that they might not broadcast this one either, but we shall see. If there's a live stream, I will try to bring it to you, if I can wake up. Then on Saturday, August 28th, at the painful hour of 3:15 a.m. Eastern, 07:15 GMT, coverage begins for the launch of the SpaceX CRS-23 cargo craft on a Falcon 9 rocket, bound for the ISS. It arrives on Sunday the 29th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 13:30 GMT. There will be live streams of both. So that is actually a pretty full plate, and that is what's coming up in the next week. Let's see if you have any questions. All right. Daniel C. Starr. Okay, this is a joke. Let me read it before I read it. It's very hard to find, lost very easily. All right, I'm not sure what the answer to that, what the punchline was. The question was, what costs no money, is very hard to find, and is lost very easily? I don't know. Iwo Wisniewski. What happens to Soyuz stage after Thea drop? After Thea drop. So Soyuz is not a reusable vehicle, so the all Soyuz stages are discarded after use. If a Soyuz upper stage achieves orbit, then it will deorbit naturally after some period of time. If they don't have a deorbit burn, on the schedule, but yeah, Soyuz stages all burn up. The first stages and core booster crash in eastern Kazakhstan, and the upper stage burns up in the atmosphere somewhere. Let's see. Crystalline bacteria. Did anyone see the Tesla bot presentation from Elon Musk? And what did you think of the design and idea? I haven't actually had a chance. So Tesla had their AI day a few days ago, and I did not have a chance to take a look at it. I understand there was a bot, but it was actually a suit occupied by a human, kind of like, well, Starman wasn't occupied by a human, I hope. But anyway, I guess it was just a visualization of a potential future for Tesla AI bots. So not having actually seen the presentation, I can't really speak to it, but we've all been waiting a very long time for better robots, so hopefully they're in the pipeline in the next handful of years. Mark Desert, I think the Russians will keep using Soyuz for some time. Yeah, Soyuz is a trusty old vehicle, and it does its job. Russia has the infrastructure to keep cranking out Soyuzes, and Russia is, in particular, is not known for adopting new technologies when the old ones work just fine. So they're developing a new vehicle, but they will continue using Soyuz into the foreseeable future. Mark Desert can't take Blue Origin seriously with the New Shepard. Bear in mind, it is a suborbital rocket, so it was never intended to achieve orbit. And it does allow, it's debatable the usefulness of crewed suborbital flights is debatable. I mean, it's basically a very expensive roller coaster ride or joyride. But the usefulness of short duration microgravity scientific experiments in suborbit is pretty significant. There are experiments that can be done, flying for relatively cheaply on a New Shepard or Virgin Galactic or whatever other, a sounding rocket or some other suborbital option that would be, much more expensive on an orbital launch. So the more science we can do cheaply, the better. But in any case, when can we expect New Glenn is his actual question. That's a good question. And I don't like to speculate. I know a lot of channels thrive on speculation, but I am no prognosticator, and I cannot see the future. But I would say that based on Blue Origin's infrastructure development and investment, they're not. They absolutely plan to finish their development of New Glenn and to fly it, from their new launch pad in that's under construction in Florida. But as for when we can expect that, it may, who knows? It may be a couple years before we actually see a vehicle. But I'd take the wait and see approach. I mean, it ain't over till it's over, and it's not developed until it's developed. We'll see if they actually pull it off. Now, there has been a lot of drama in the news recently regarding Blue Origin and the human landing system. NASA awarding, basically bumping Blue Origin out of competition for the human landing system contract and awarding it to SpaceX for their as yet unfinished Starship Lunar Edition. But it's my understanding that Blue Origin has actually sued NASA over that contract. But again, we'll see how that plays out. Snow Kittens, and indeed, sorry, got a little gnat flying in my face here. Snow Kittens says, and indeed, Kemp CEO said there will be a live stream for Astra. So looks like Astra will have a live stream this time. Last time they didn't because their last couple of launches experienced failures. Scott Dufferland, welcome back, by the way. The new cupola on the Crew Dragon Inspiration 4 mission, have we seen it yet? Is it dangerous? So because I want to say commercial crew, but anyway, the Inspiration 4 mission, which is the manned Crew Dragon mission that is not going to the ISS, it'll be taking 4 civilian astronauts into low Earth orbit. Because it won't be docking with the ISS, SpaceX has designed a cupola, or a panoramic window, in place of where the docking adapter would be in the regular Crew Dragon that goes to ISS. I do not know if there's been any images of that cupola released yet. Maybe just concept drawings, I'm not sure. But would it be dangerous? I wouldn't think so. I mean, there are windows on the ISS. There's a cupola on the ISS. There are very large windows on New Shepard, although that's suborbital and not subject to the same sort of stresses that the Crew Dragon, being an orbital vehicle, would be subject to. Yeah. So remember, though. Yeah. Right. So I wouldn't think that it would be dangerous, but I trust in the engineers at SpaceX to make sure that it's safe. But it should give them a really great view. Though probably not all 4 people can fit in there at once. They can maybe take turns. Oh yes, Mark Desire mentioned the Blue Origin suing NASA and SpaceX about the moon contract. Blue Origin's motto is gradatum ferociter, or step by step ferociously. They do take their time. They advance at a more moderate pace than SpaceX, which is sort of charging aggressively into the future. But SpaceX has produced some undeniable and dramatic results. I mean, with well over 100 Falcon 9 launches, boosters being reused 10 times now, I think is still the record, if not 11. I'm not sure if they've reflown their most veteran booster. Multiple crews to the ISS, Starship well into development. I mean, SpaceX has just made phenomenal progress in the past, 10 years. And, Blue Origin, they have their New Shepard, which is quite successful in doing what it was designed to do. We have not yet seen much of New Glenn. We haven't seen the BE-4 engine, which will also be on the ULA Vulcan Centaur rocket. But, lawsuits are how companies and rich people, get things done. So we'll see how that plays out. MVM Motovlog Music, what are your thoughts on Starship Booster 30 Raptor launch? Can you imagine what that will look like? Well, I imagine it'll be loud. It will sound loud and look bright. 30 Raptors is a heck of a lot more than, the most Raptors they've ever fired up. Let's see, did they do a static fire of the... Gosh, I've been so out of touch with Boca Chica. By the way, go visit Lab Padre. They have live views 24/7 of the SpaceX facilities in Boca Chica. I don't recall if they did a static fire, but in any case, the most Raptors they've ever launched with was 3. And so launching the BN3 or whichever booster number it is with 30 Raptors, that will be amazing. And I hope it succeeds, because if it crunches, then that's a lot of lost Raptors and a big explosion that could potentially damage their launch pad and set them back even more. But that'll be amazing to watch. Now the Super Heavy doesn't, the Super Heavy BN3 or BN whatever. It's basically just a cylinder with grid fins and it doesn't have the kind of spaceship appearance that the Starship upper stage does, but it has lots more Raptor engines. So that'll be really something to see. I mean, we can imagine what it would look like, but to see it actually lift off, video is not going to do it justice. We really, there's not going to be any substitute for viewing these things in person. Someday I will go see a launch in person, and I would love for it to be Starship, but we'll see. R. Necknud. What are Bezos's chances of successfully suing NASA? I don't know how often NASA actually gets sued, or what kind of legal representation the National Aeronautics and Space Administration has. But I would say that Bezos's chances are fairly low. But then again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. Yeah, I mean, in theory, may the best service provider win. But I mean, ultimately, the funding has to be allocated one way or another, and NASA chose SpaceX, so we'll see. Okay, MVM Motovlog Music is saying the booster that will fly will be BN4 or B4. Now they have changed their nomenclature for the starships. They're no longer SN. They're it wasn't SN20, it was S20 that they mounted to the top of BN3 for that very dramatic stack demonstration last week. But so maybe the BNs are now just Bs, and pretty soon they'll just be nothing. They'll be like 4. Anyway. What do we got here? Soyuz launch site change. Okay. Starwalk asks, is the Soyuz launch site change due to weather conditions, or is it the satellite launch site? So, Ariane Space contracts. They purchase Soyuz rockets from the Russian Federation. Russia manufactures the Soyuz, which is Ariane Space's medium lift vehicle. Vega, of course, is their light launch vehicle, and Ariane 5 is their heavy launch vehicle. But the Soyuz comes from Russia, and it is launched from 3 different sites. Ariane Space sometimes launches them from Kourou in French Guiana, which is the ESA's spaceport, Ariane Space's home spaceport, if you will. And for a variety of reasons, including orbital parameters, trajectory, whatever, as well as cost savings in shipping the vehicle, etc., etc. They also launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, which is Russia's, sort of granddaddy spaceport, as well as Vostochny Cosmodrome in far eastern Russia, even though it's, 5 time zones east of Moscow. It's still within Russia and is Russia's only commercial spaceport that is within the Russian borders. And that's where they, so they launch from all 3 facilities. I don't know what all the calculus is that goes into which launch goes from which facility, but they've had launches. They've had OneWeb launches from all 3. Even though it's kind of weird for Ariane Space to be, I guess Ariane Space is the facilitator, but it's kind of weird to have an Ariane Space launch, quote unquote, with a Russian rocket from a Russian facility, being administrated by Russian mission control, but this is the way business works. You know, people stamp their name on things and call it their own. Lots of questions. This is great. Thank you, people. MVM Motovlog Music, what are your thoughts on the SpaceX Inspiration mission? I think it is great. I mean, people, the general feel that I have observed in social media and YouTube, etc., regarding the suborbital flights from Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic have been, you know, critical or negative-ish. You know, people are like, "Well, this is a lot of money spent for what purpose? So that somebody can have a joyride." You know, and I suspect that now some of it, you know, some of it is born of resentment of the super rich. You know, you've got billionaire Richard Branson flying on his rocket, and mega billionaire Jeff Bezos flying on his rocket. You will not have mega billionaire Elon Musk flying on his rocket yet, but you know, some of it may be resentment of the super rich. Some of it may be just sort of a general and whatever the word is, a general dislike of money being spent on space projects that are not scientific or commercial in nature. You know, they're not actually accomplishing anything besides providing an amazing experience for a very few number of wealthy people. And some of it may be sort of SpaceX fanboyism, where people are like, anything that's not SpaceX is stupid, which is, of course, short-sighted and tribalistic and unhelpful. But I think that people will generally regard the Inspiration 4 mission differently, because it will be an orbital launch. They'll actually be circling the Earth for, what is it, a few days, 4 days, 3 days, something like that, which will be just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal experience for those people. And they'll probably provide, I don't know, I don't know if they're going to live stream it, who knows, but getting things into orbit is a whole different ballgame from reaching the edge of space suborbitally. And I think that it's a great thing, because the more we normalize space travel in general, the closer we come to making it accessible for the masses. And we're getting there very slowly, but we are getting there. Astro Zeus, do we know what Dragon Inspiration 4 is flying on? Will it be Resilience or a new one? Oh, which Crew Dragon vehicle will it use? I'm not actually sure which Crew Dragon they're going to be using. It may be, it will probably be a I don't want to say Virgin, because there's a company called Virgin that sends things to space. I think it'll be a new vehicle, because they've got, like, instead of the ISS docking adapter, they're going to have their special cupola window. You know, it's not going to be configured in exactly the same way as the ISS Crew Dragon missions. So now, I suppose they could reuse Resilience or Endeavor, but I guess we shall see. The information may be out there, but I haven't seen it as to which actual vehicle will be flying. Rhonda Weilman is upset because YouTube did not notify her of my live stream. She loves this channel and the wonderful people. Well, I thank you for that, and I love you wonderful people also. Best of health to all of you and your loved ones. From Rhonda Weilman. Yeah, sometimes YouTube doesn't send notifications. Just make sure you have the little notification bell, ding, clicked. That was my sound effect. and hopefully it sends notifications. I mean, I did create today's live stream a little bit late. It was like maybe an hour and a half before the broadcast, but that's still plenty of time for a 30-minute notification. So I'm not sure. Maybe I should create the live stream like the day before or something like that. Geraldine Braun, Raw Space and Friends. I'm looking forward to, and have already added my reminder for the upcoming launch. It's great to see everybody on here. Miss you all. That's always good to see you, and all of the other regulars as well as new folks as well. Let's see. Alan Buckley. What really stinks about the Bezos lawsuit is that all the work on that project has to be stopped until it's resolved. That's right, because of the pending legal action. Any work that was currently being done on the human landing system is put on hold until the outcome of that lawsuit is realized. With that said, I mean, the SpaceX's HLS is going to be, well, the plan was to use a version of Starship, which they are developing, and they're developing the terrestrial Starship with the terrestrial Super Heavy booster. And I'm not aware that SpaceX was actually doing any development on the lunar HLS, the lunar Starship, yet. My assumption would be that would wait until some later phase of their Starship development, where the vehicle is more mature and perhaps has flown orbitally a few times. But so it's quite possible that the work that has been delayed was not yet started anyway. But there may be things going on, engineering or things going on behind the scenes, systems development, integration, maybe software, who knows, electronics, avionics design that will now be put on hold. Mark Desire, if these suborbital hops take millionaires into space, in quotes, are they willing to pay for it? Surely somehow that money gets into orbital programs. So when Elon Musk acquired his Tesla Roadster in 2010, which I believe was the first Tesla Roadster off the line, he actually purchased it from his own company with his own money. It was about $150,000, as I understand. That Roadster, of course, went on to be launched in 2018 on top of the first Falcon Heavy into orbit around the sun, which yours truly has been streaming a cleaned-up replay of for the last 3.5 years. But in that case, Elon actually paid for his own product to his own company. So it's kind of a circular money flow there. I have no idea if Bezos, of course Bezos financed, his own Blue Origin to some degree, it's every rich person's interest to facilitate company growth without throwing, without just throwing all their money at it. Blue Origin got money from donors. They got money from investors. They got money for development from NASA, I think. But in any case, I have no idea if Bezos paid for his own and or his brothers and or Wally Funk's flights on New Shepard. Now, Daman, the kid, what was his name? Something Daman. He did pay for his flight. His father paid for his flight, so that one was paid for. But as far as Bezos, I have no idea. He probably just rode the thing and said thanks, Amazon customers, for paying for this. Yeah. Bezos seems a bit more disconnected from a realization of the optics of a situation than some other, like, for example, Sir Richard Branson. I mean, Elon, he's a wild card. He does and says things from the hip, and sometimes it causes a mess. But he doesn't usually make himself look like a rich jerk. But who knows? To each their own. Starwalk. SpaceX Inspiration will be flying in space for 3 days. Microgravity can be harmful to health for some people. So 3 days for Inspiration 4. And microgravity does have ill effects on the human body, but they don't usually manifest after just 3 days. Now, astronauts and cosmonauts on the International Space Station, or on extended, for example, on Mir before that, they, like, shuttle missions were only a few days in duration, up to a couple of weeks. Other spacecraft were short duration, but on long duration space stays, yes, the human body does suffer significant bone and muscle loss, bone density, bone mass, and muscle loss, which is why astronauts on the ISS have to exercise for at least 2 hours a day. That is a lot of exercise, and to fight the effects of that, and they still experience loss, which takes their bodies a while to recover from once they get back down on the ground. But 3 days in space, I don't think, is going to have any particular ill effects. I mean, it may, people may experience nausea. I mean, even astronauts can get nauseous in microgravity, and sometimes they do, but they get used to it because it's an unnatural state. Floating in free fall for an extended period of time is not something the human body was designed for, and so sometimes our bodies protest. But as far as the more serious medical effects like space blindness or bone loss or anything like that, I don't think a 3-day trip is going to have any particular ill effects on the participants. MVM Motovlog Music. Why is there so little information regarding Dream Chaser? Well, I don't know. I actually I don't have much information regarding Dream Chaser, so apparently your statement is correct. Some companies just aren't as transparent. I mean, maybe they're experiencing some delays in development in the development of that craft. I mean, not everybody wears their heart on their sleeves like SpaceX does, but especially when there are government or defense contracts involved, there's a lot that happens behind the scenes that we just are never aware of because it's not made public. But yeah, so I don't have any more information on Dream Chaser, but would be interesting to look into sometime. Microbyte asks, how many toilets are in the Crew Dragon? I believe there is one toilet, some sort of new design. I don't know that we've actually seen it, but we've been told about it. It's a new space toilet, but I believe they have one. And Tim Hazelwood is saying there are 0 toilets in Starliner, which is a little disturbing because the Starliner ascent to the ISS can take an equivalent amount of time to Crew Dragon. That's a lot of hours to be stuck in a spacecraft with no potty. So, Well, okay, Mark Desire asks if we want to see the toilet, as in he's challenging whether we want to see it or not. I mean, we have received tours of the ISS in which we get a detailed explanation of the functioning of the ISS's toilet, including the tour guide literally touching all around the rim of the thing, which, you know, I guess when you're living in close quarters with, you know, a bunch of other people or a handful of other people for 6 months, you get cozy, but still, I hope she used some hand sanitizer after that. Yes, they do have a privacy curtain. Alan Buckley says ISS astronauts experience significant heart, sight, and brain damage. Some of it does not ever repair itself. Yeah, space is not kind on the human body. It really is not. Which is why I am personally puzzled as to why we have not made any effort whatsoever to create a rotating module or a rotating habitat of any sort, because simulated gravity by way of centrifugal force is a very theoretically easy way to combat the effects of microgravity or weightlessness. They call it microgravity, but really it's just 0G. It's weightlessness. You know, because our bodies will be pushed into the outer wall or floor of the module or habitat centrifugally, and you know, so we won't have like the atmosphere on the ISS is similar to Earth's atmospheric mix of nitrogen oxygen. So that's not an issue. It's not like they're breathing pure oxygen. But the microgravity, yeah, it's a major problem. And I think that any mission to another planet like Mars or beyond will need to have some sort of centrifugal simulated gravity, because otherwise, you know, even though we've had crew, like we've had people stay in space for more than a year at a time, but it does take a toll. It takes a toll on their bodies, and they have to fight hard to combat some of those effects, and others of those effects are not combatable. And I think that in order for our future explorers to be properly, you know, conditioned and fit to explore strange new worlds, they will have to traverse that vast expanse under simulated gravity, or else, you know, I mean, like when people are taken off of the Soyuz, they're literally carried on a stretcher. I mean, they carry them down out of the module and basically put them in a wheelchair or a lawn chair or whatever, because they can't always even stand on their own. So, you know, that's not how you want people to arrive on Mars, step out of the craft and collapse because their legs don't work. But, yeah. All right, so lots of questions. That was great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I think that'll wrap it up for this week. Thank you all for coming. And until next time, keep it raw, and I hope to see you in the variety of live streams that we will have this week. Bye for now.